Good morning. Today is Monday, June 8th, 2020, and I have a wonderful Rabbi Biederman story to share with you today. So, there was a chassan, a young man who was getting married, lives in Beit Shemesh in Israel, a Haredi area, and he's a person who studied in yeshiva, so he did not have any funds to pay for his wedding. So he did what many other people do. He traveled to the United States to raise funds and to go door to door to collect, and to shuls to collect for his wedding. So when he gets to the U.S., he does what most of these gentlemen do, and he hires a driver to take him. Now, the driver gets a percentage, and it's actually quite a high percentage, like a quarter, 25% or more, because the value of what the driver does is not just driving around. That's actually secondary. The real value of what the driver does is the list, because the driver has the list of addresses, and so the driver is getting a percentage of all that comes in. The driver wants the collector to succeed because his percentage will then be higher. So he has a list, and it'll say, and he can tell the person, a wealthy person lives there, not so wealthy, but they're very generous here. Don't go there, you won't get anything. So the list is really very, very important. Okay, so this young man is with this driver, and the driver takes him to a place, and he points to a house, and he says, that is a very wealthy man, a wealthy family who lives there. Go there and ask for tzedakah. So this young man knocks on the door, and this wealthy man opens the door, and he starts yelling at him. What are you doing here? Why are you asking me for money for your own expenses? Get a job. You're a parasite. And he's yelling and cursing and screaming at this fellow who came to ask for money. Now, I must just interject my own personal editorial comment here, and that is, I must say to you that I am not in favor of a system where people who need household expenses go begging door for tzedakah. I don't think that's the right thing, and I just don't think that's the way a society should run, for a number of reasons. And also, let me add, I am not enamored of these drivers. Again, for several reasons. I think that it's not such a positive thing. And lastly, let me just add, just to be fair in my criticism all along, that if someone does come to your door and you open the door and you happen to strongly disagree with the lifestyle choices of the person who has come to ask you something, you still should not scream and yell and insult them. That's also not the right thing. So I want to share my criticism of all three parties so that I'm clear. But let's get back to the story, because the point is, I just want to tell you the story the way Rabbi Biederman tells the story. Okay. So the wealthy man is screaming, and the young man is silent. Doesn't say a word. And he's, go back to Israel, get a job, don't be a leech on society. And the young man is standing, doesn't respond, he's silent, and he just stands there. And he listens. After several minutes of this tirade, the wealthy man gives this young man $300. Then the wealthy man asks this young man a question. He says, tell me, where did you get the strength, the self-control to stay quiet? I insulted you, I cursed you, I humiliated you. How did you manage to stay quiet while I was doing that and not respond? So the young man laughed. And he showed the wealthy man the list that he had from the driver. And the list has the names and the addresses and this is important, the expected amounts from each address. So there's a name and address, and there's a note about what you can expect to receive at that home. And he showed the wealthy man his name on the list with his address. And next to his name and his address on this list was a note. And the note says, he gets angry and screams, he shouts and yells, and then he gives $300. So the wealthy man understood why this young man was quiet, because he knew what was going to happen. It could be the wealthy man didn't even recognize his own pattern, but this young man knew what was going to happen. So fine, if I have to listen to someone yelling and screaming for a while, but I'm going to get $300, that's fine. Now, but here's the point. Here's the lesson part of it. Of course, it only works because the young man believes in the accuracy of the list given to him by the driver. In other words, he trusts the driver. Of course, he has reason to trust the driver because it's in the driver's best interests to give accurate information, because the driver also makes more money. So he trusts the driver's information. But here's the question I have to ask you. What if the trust that this young man has in his driver we could have for our greatest sages and teachers who have taught us over and over again throughout the centuries that if someone yells at you and insults you and humiliates you and you remain silent, that you receive unlimited blessing from God? And that's an assurance we have from our greatest sages going back centuries and centuries, with examples in the Torah itself and throughout the Talmud, etc. We should try to believe and trust our own drivers, our sages, and our teachers who teach this lesson at least as much as this young man believes his driver. My friends, have a great day. Enjoy the beautiful weather, and I look forward to seeing you soon in person.